If you feel everything too deeply, you might be the empath chosen one. There are some of us who were born with hearts stretched just a little wider than the rest of the world can understand. We walk through life like tuning forks, vibrating with every emotion around us: joy, pain, grief, ecstasy, absorbing every frequency like it was our own. We feel the subtle shifts in a room before anyone speaks. We know when someone is lying, even if they smile. We can taste the unspoken sorrow in someone's silence. This isn't imagination. This isn't weakness. This is the mark of the empath. And if you've always felt like you were made of some other material, softer, more porous, more sensitive, it may be because you weren't just born to feel. You were born to transform. You might be the empath chosen one. I think about it. Has life ever felt louder to you than it does to others? Not in sound, but in energy. Have you ever walked into a space and suddenly felt overwhelmed by emotions that weren't yours? Have you ever cried after talking to someone, not because of what was said, but because of what was felt? Have you ever been exhausted after being around people too long, not because you disliked them, but because you absorb every dimension of their being? That's not you being too much. That's you being tuned in. And that tuning is not an accident. It's a spiritual assignment.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Most people go through life only half awake. They see what's in front of them. They hear what's spoken. But empaths experience the underneath. We feel the layers. We read the energy between the lines. We carry the emotional weight of the people we love, and sometimes even strangers. But what if I told you that this ability isn't just sensitivity? What if I told you it's a form of spiritual technology? A sacred design that allows you to pick up signals from the universe others can't hear, because that's what empaths really are: receivers of collective energy, translators of the unseen. And if you've been feeling like your sensitivity is too much to handle, it's not because you're broken. It's because you haven't yet realized how powerful you are. We are not here to escape the pain of the world. We are here to transmute it. But before you can do that, you have to understand the difference between absorption and alchemy. Absorbing energy means taking it in and holding it, letting it sit inside your body until it becomes emotional overload. But alchemy means taking that energy and giving it direction, letting it move through you and become something new. That is the empath's highest path: not to be a sponge, but to be a channel. And if you've never been taught how to do that, you'll always feel like you're drowning in everyone else's emotions. But once you learn to channel, you become unstoppable. There's a reason you feel things so deeply. It's not because you're weak. It's because you're sentient in ways most people aren't. And that sentience is your gift. But it's also your initiation. Life will test you through your sensitivity. It will try to harden you, numb you, convince you that you have to shut down to survive. But here's the truth. The world doesn't need more people who are numb. It needs people who can feel everything and still choose to love. Still choose to show up. Still choose to stay open. That's what makes you different. You don't just feel for the sake of feeling. You feel because you're meant to carry light through emotional terrain where others get lost. And yes, it's heavy. Being an empath can be exhausting, especially when you haven't yet learned how to protect your energy. You may have spent your whole life giving, healing, holding space for others while ignoring your own needs. You may have been the emotional anchor for your family, the peacemaker, the one who always sensed what no one else spoke of. But being an anchor isn't the same as being a savior. You are not here to fix everyone. You are here to feel and then respond with wisdom. The more you try to carry what isn't yours, the more you disconnect from your own power. And your power is sacred. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat with your own emotions without trying to fix them, without judging them, without making them wrong? Because that's where your magic starts. That's where you begin to realize that your feelings are not obstacles. They're invitations to deeper awareness, to greater clarity, to true alignment. Every emotion you experience is a messenger. And when you stop running from them, you begin to hear what your soul has been trying to say all along. You are not here to be a mirror for everyone else's pain. You are here to be a portal through which healing energy flows. And that starts with you. The chosen one is never chosen because they're perfect. They're chosen because they can feel the world breaking and still hold a vision of something better. They're chosen because they've walked through fire and still carry water. They're chosen because they remember not with the mind, but with the heart. And if you've always felt like you didn't quite belong, that you saw things others didn't, that your heart broke more easily and healed more slowly, it's because you were sent ahead of your time. You are the guide you've been waiting for. This path isn't easy, but it is sacred, and you were never meant to walk it alone. The moment you start owning your sensitivity as a superpower, everything changes. You stop apologizing for your depth. You stop hiding your intuition. You stop trying to fit into spaces that were never built for your frequency. You rise. Quietly, slowly, but undeniably. And as you rise, you begin to remember that the pain you've carried wasn't punishment, it was preparation. So I ask you now, and don't answer with your mind, answer with your soul. What would your life look like if you stopped seeing your sensitivity as a problem and started seeing it as your greatest calling? The sacred role of the deep feeler, why the world can't heal without you. There comes a moment in every empath's life when the pain becomes too loud to ignore, and the question arises not just in thought, but in the cells of the body, in the ache of the heart. Why do I feel everything so deeply? And not just your own pain, but the pain of strangers, the suffering of the earth, the heartbreak of the collective. It's an overwhelming symphony, and for most of your life, no one taught you how to listen to it, how to interpret it, how to move with it instead of drown in it. But what if I told you that this intensity, this deep feeling you carry, is not the wound, it's the medicine? What if I told you that your sensitivity is not a flaw to fix, but a divine technology designed to serve something far greater than yourself? You see, in a world that has normalized emotional disconnection and spiritual numbness, the empath is the anomaly. We are the ones who still feel. And in that feeling we carry the codes of restoration. The world cannot heal without us, not because we are better, but because we are designed to hold what others reject. We transmute the grief, the rage, the despair that lies buried under society's surface. We bring it into the light, not always through words, but through presence, through witnessing, through the sacred ability to be with what others escape. And that is no small task. That is a spiritual art form. Empaths are emotional alchemists, but before we can transmute, we must recognize our role. Not everyone came here to feel on this level. It takes a particular kind of soul, one forged in many lifetimes of service, healing, and remembrance, to be able to sit in the frequency of pain and still choose love. And if that's you, then you know what I mean when I say that every emotion carries information. That sorrow has a voice. That anger has a root. That joy has a resonance that can shatter illusions. You feel all of it because you were built for it. And the more you try to numb it, the more your body rebels, not because you're broken, but because you're misaligned with your purpose. So many empaths walk around thinking they're too much, too unstable, too emotional. But what if you're exactly as you're supposed to be? What if your tears are sacred? What if your anxiety is not a disorder, but an antenna tuned to collective dissonance? What if your exhaustion is not weakness, but the weight of unspoken energies moving through you? You're not a sponge. You're not here to just absorb. You're here to transmit, to ground, to alchemize. But that requires deep energetic hygiene. That requires conscious boundaries. That requires stepping into your power, not by shutting down your heart, but by learning how to protect it without closing it. When you begin to understand this, everything changes. You stop blaming yourself for the pain you feel. You stop internalizing the emotions of others. You start asking higher questions like, is this mine? Or what am I being asked to transform here? You begin to discern the difference between empathy and enmeshment, between compassion and codependence. And that discernment is what allows you to serve without losing yourself. That's what allows you to witness suffering without becoming it. That's what turns your sensitivity from a burden into a superpower. The world is shifting. We are in a time of great unraveling and great awakening. Systems are collapsing. Truths are being revealed. And in the midst of that, people are feeling more than ever, and many don't know what to do with it. That's where you come in. The empath chosen ones are not just here to survive this time. We are here to guide others through it. We are here to model emotional sovereignty, to be examples of what it means to feel deeply without being destroyed by it. To show that sensitivity is not weakness, it's wisdom. Ancient wisdom, soul wisdom, the kind that predates language and transcends logic. But here's the part most forget: you don't have to do it alone. You were never meant to. The lone empath archetype is outdated. It's time to reconnect, to find your tribe, to build your energetic alliances. Because when empaths come together heart to heart, soul to soul, we create a frequency that is unshakable. We amplify each other. We heal faster. We remember more clearly. And most of all, we anchor a new reality into the collective field. A reality where feeling is honored, where intuition is trusted, where emotional intelligence is valued as deeply as intellect. So I ask you now, with all the sincerity of one empath to another, are you ready to stop hiding your heart from a world that desperately needs it? Are you ready to step out of the shadows of self-doubt and into the sacred role you were born to play? Are you ready to stop apologizing for your depth and start embodying it? Because this life, this incarnation, this moment in time, it chose you. Not because you were the strongest or the smartest, but because you were willing to feel what others could not. Because within your sensitivity lies the blueprint of collective healing. And when you finally stop resisting it, when you finally say yes to that role, the universe doesn't just support you, it rushes to meet you. People begin to find you. Opportunities open. Healing accelerates. Why? Because you've become available for your mission. Not in theory, but in embodiment. You are the empath chosen one, not because you want the title, but because you've lived the journey. You've walked through emotional landslides that would have crushed others. And you're still here, heart open, eyes wide, soul ready. And now the only question left is, what will you do with this sacred responsibility? The Energy Architect: How to Master Your Empath Power and Shape Reality. There's a pivotal moment in the empath's journey where the paradigm shifts, where you stop reacting to energy and start shaping it. You stop feeling like a victim of emotion and begin to realize you're an architect of energy, a sculptor of unseen forces. This is where the empath transforms into the master. And it doesn't come from escaping sensitivity, it comes from owning it. Because you were never meant to just cope with your gift, you were meant to command it. And that doesn't mean controlling it in fear, it means collaborating with it in wisdom. You see, energy is not just something that happens to you, it's something you emit, something you influence, something you direct. Every emotion you feel is not just a response, it's a vibration. And vibrations don't just affect your inner world, they ripple outward. They shape your conversations, your relationships, your opportunities, and even your physical health. When you begin to understand this, you stop asking, why do I feel so much? And start asking, what am I doing with what I feel? That's the turning point. That's when you stop being the empath who absorbs and become the empath who activates. To master your empath power, you must first understand the mechanics of your own field. Your aura, your emotional body, your nervous system, these are not just passive containers. They are intelligent, responsive systems. They receive, interpret, and broadcast energy in every moment. And your nervous system? It's the interface between your spirit and the physical world. If you don't learn to regulate it, you'll constantly be hijacked by other people's emotions. But when you do learn to regulate it through breathwork, grounding, movement, and intention, you become a living transmitter of calm, clarity, and presence. People feel safer around you without even knowing why. That's not magic. That's energetic mastery. But here's the secret most empaths are never told. You don't just feel emotions, you amplify them. You are an emotional amplifier, which means if you're ungrounded, you amplify chaos. But if you're centered, you amplify peace. That's why your energy matters more than your words. That's why people open up to you without understanding why. That's why you can walk into a room and shift the whole atmosphere just by being there. Not because you're trying, but because your field is that powerful. The question is, are you using that power consciously? Becoming an energy architect means you stop waiting for the outside world to dictate how you feel. You flip the script. You decide how you want to feel, and then you generate that frequency within yourself regardless of what's happening around you. That doesn't mean you ignore reality. It means you influence it. You become the calm in the storm, the grounded presence in the chaos. And from that place you can speak truth, hold boundaries, create healing, and attract aligned experiences because your vibration is no longer reactive. It's intentional. This is where your empathic gift becomes your spiritual technology. Think of your intuition as a GPS that's always recalibrating based on your emotional state. The clearer your energy, the more accurate your guidance. But when you're clouded by other people's emotions, your GPS gets scrambled. That's why energy hygiene is not optional, it's essential. Clean your field like you clean your body. Detox from emotional noise. Unplug from overstimulation. Spend time in nature. Breathe. Clear the static so your inner voice can rise again. Because that voice, it's not just yours. It's connected to something vast and cosmic and ancient. And the more you honor it, the more it will lead you not just to peace, but to purpose. What happens when you live from that place? You begin to create reality consciously. You begin to notice how your thoughts, your choices, your presence all ripple into form. You start to see the patterns between your internal state and the external events around you. And you realize something awe-inspiring. You are co-creating this life moment by moment, not just with your actions, but with your frequency. This is the empath's secret weapon. When we align our emotions with our intention, we send out a signal that reshapes everything. Let me ask you something that only your soul can answer. What would your life look like if you stopped managing your energy out of fear and started directing it with love? What if you stopped bracing for emotional impact and started curating your own energetic environment? What if you became so sovereign in your vibration that you could walk into any space and elevate it without losing yourself in the process? This is not a fantasy. This is your calling. You were never meant to be overwhelmed forever. You were meant to learn the language of energy so fluently that you could teach others how to navigate it too. That's the true role of the empath chosen one, not to be a passive feeler, but an active transmitter, a lighthouse in a stormy sea, a guide in the energetic wilderness, a soul who has walked through emotional fire and returned with the codes to help others do the same. But to own that role, you must let go of the smallness. The stories that say you're too sensitive, too fragile, too much. You must stop shrinking your light to make others comfortable. You must stop editing your truth to avoid conflict. You must stop absorbing energy that isn't yours to carry. Because when you stop all that, you free up your energy to do what it was always meant to do, heal, create, awaken, led. You are not here just to feel. You are here to shape energy, emotion, experience, and ultimately reality itself. And the more you own that, the more the universe responds not with resistance, but with resonance. You'll start to find yourself in the right places, with the right people, doing the right work, not because you chased it, but because you became it. That's what it means to be an energy architect. That's what it means to be an empath who has awakened to their power. And now the only question left is, what reality will you choose to build? The final ascension, living as the empath chosen one in a world that needs you now. There is a moment in every chosen one's journey where the seeking ends, not because the questions stop, but because the answers begin to rise from within. This is the final ascension, the sacred integration of everything you've remembered, everything you've healed, and everything you've become. It is not a finish line. It is a beginning, a rebirth, a return to the world, not as someone who is overwhelmed by it, but as someone who is ready to serve it. Because the empath chosen one is not here to escape reality. You are here to elevate it. And everything you felt, endured, and survived has been forging you into the kind of soul who can carry that light. You've spent years feeling like you didn't belong here. Like this world was too loud, too cruel, too fast for someone like you. But what you didn't realize is that your discomfort was never about weakness, it was about contrast. You were never meant to adjust to the dysfunction. You were meant to see it clearly so you could help shift it. And now, as systems unravel and illusions fall, your role becomes more important than ever. Because while others panic, you feel. While others numb, you navigate. While others shut down, you open. Your gift is not just that you feel deeply, it's that you have the courage to stay awake when it would be easier to sleepwalk through life. Living as the empath chosen one means embodying your truth with unwavering integrity, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's misunderstood. It means holding compassion without collapsing, holding space without self-sacrifice. It means knowing when to walk beside someone and when to walk away, not from judgment but from clarity, because you finally understand that your energy is sacred, your presence is powerful, and your time is not meant to be spent constantly rescuing others from their own lessons. You're not here to save, you're here to shine. And in your light, others remember their own. This is not a life of spiritual performance. It's not about crystals, rituals, or how much sage you burn. It's about embodiment. It's about how you move through the world when no one is watching. How you speak to the parts of yourself no one else hears. How you honor your inner knowing even when logic disagrees. It's about becoming so anchored in your essence that nothing external can shake your foundation. You become the eye of the storm, not because you're immune to chaos, but because you befriended it. You've danced with your shadows. You've faced your fears. You've sat in the dark long enough to realize that you are the light. And now the world needs your light more than ever, not in a loud, flashy way, but in the quiet, steady way that only those who've walked through the fire can offer. Your empathy is not just emotional, it's evolutionary. It holds the frequency of the next age, the one where connection, authenticity, and heart-centered leadership become the new normal. But for that world to exist, someone has to live it first. Someone has to embody it now. That someone is you. You are being called into your highest timeline, not because it's easy, but because it's true. And in that timeline, you don't shrink. You don't self-abandon. You don't apologize for your softness or suppress your intuition. You show up. Fully. Fiercely. Authentically. You trust your feelings, not just as emotional responses, but as divine intelligence. You recognize that your sensitivity is the blueprint, not the barrier. And you live each day as a declaration that it is safe to feel, to love, to care, to dream. So I ask you now, not as a rhetorical question, but as a sacred invitation. What would it look like to live as if you are already the chosen one? Not someday. Not when you're more healed, more ready, more perfect. Now, what would it look like to walk into every room knowing that your frequency shifts the space? To speak knowing that your words carry codes? To love knowing that your presence is medicine? What would it look like to stop waiting for permission and start living like the one who remembers why they came here? Because you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to awaken. You came here to remind others of a deeper rhythm, to challenge what's numb, to soften what's rigid, to bring color back to a grayscale world. You came here to be you in the most unapologetically expansive way possible. This is the final ascension. Not the end of your journey, but the beginning of your leadership. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are the empath chosen one. And your time is not coming. It's here. Now rise.